And welcome back to the channel of Four Wheeled Flim Flam. I'm Tim. This is the new Kia Sportage. I've already filmed it on the channel, but it's been 6 months and these are already more popular where I live than Oxygen. These are absolutely everywhere, but I wanted to try the top spec, most expensive one. That's this, the plug-in hybrid version. It gives you more than 30 miles of all electric driving. Does that come at a cost? Let's find out. Yes, it does come at a cost, quite a literal one. The normal Sportage starts from about £27,000 here in the UK. The plug-in hybrid starts at 38, so we're already 12 grand up. And this is a top spec GT Line S1. This is 44 grand. But anyway, let's talk about the PHEV plug-in hybrid side of this. It's a marriage made in heaven. Well, it's not necessarily really, it's a marriage made in probably Korea, but it's a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder petrol engine with 261 horsepower, 350 newton meters of torque, married to a motor and a battery. It does 0 to 60 in 7.9 seconds, so it's a little bit slower than the also available self-charging hybrid version of this car. It'll give you actually 43 miles on a charge list thanks to a 14 kilowatt hour battery, and the official MPG figure, you're sitting down, yeah, it's 252 mpg, but obviously that's a bit of a cheat because it doesn't use any Gs when it's doing the first bit of those Ms, if that makes sense. You can charge it in 5.5 hours off a 3-pin plug here in the UK, or just under 2 hours with a wall box. As I said, the regular hybrid version of this is available. Oh, look, it's another electric car. There's a Q4 e-tron thing. I've not driven one of those because Ali doesn't like me. It's not that they don't like me, it's I haven't asked. Yeah, what was I saying? There is a regular hybrid version of this, which has a tiny battery in comparison to this. It's a 1.5 kilowatt hour one. And the battery in the self-charger sits under the back seats. The battery in this takes up the whole floor under the cabin, which does suggest this is going to be heavier, and it is. It's 1.9 tons. 1.9 tons for a Sportage. Just bear in mind that the normal petrol version is 1.5 tons, so 400 kilos lighter than this. That is going to have an impact on the way it drives, and we'll get onto that. There's also been an impact on the size of the petrol tank in this. It's down to 42 litres, which is 20 litres less than just a pure petrol one of these. And it's kind of one of the unspoken things really of plug-in hybrids. You're compromised on the electric side because it's not a full electric car, and you're a bit compromised on the combustion engine side of things because you've got a small fuel tank. The maximum range in this on petrol is about 280 miles as far as I can tell, and the electric's only 30-40. So you can't go as far in this as you would in basically any of the other Sportages. But anyway, let's quickly whiz back around to the front. I want to talk about the looks, because when this first came out, I filmed it in a studio last year, kind of behind closed doors, and I thought that looks like a concept car, and I still think it does. It still looks very weird and spaceshipy. I'm not sure I'd have it in white, but this doesn't look normal sitting in a lay-by, does it? Because it's GT Line S, you've got more shiny black plastic than Darth Maul's piano shop, which is great. You've got these headlighty, daytime running lighty things. Not really sure about this corrugated scratchy plastic, which is blocking off half the grille. You can see there's a few different radiators behind there to cool all the complicated stuff. This gets 19-inch wheels because it's a top spec one. It looks nice. It looks interesting. It looks different. I'm already used to it because, as I said, I've seen so many of these. Now, you can move this backwards and forwards remotely using the key, but I think just about every other YouTuber has done that. Anyway, one of the other slightly compromised areas that you get on the PHEV is the boot. It's 540 litres, which is about 40 litres smaller than the regular one. It still beeps and waits a while to open, which is one of my few niggles with this car. I haven't got many, but yeah, that's your space. That's my fancy camera bag just for scale, not just because I left it there. And you've got a charging cable and nothing else under the floor. There is actually a version of this with an even smaller battery. I think it's the diesel mild hybrid version, so don't buy that. That's 520 litres of space, unless you really want a diesel mild hybrid version, in which case knock yourself out. Anyway, you can fold the seats down and there's 1800 litres of space, which is still a lot. It's just less than if you went for a pure petrol or diesel one, or a hybrid one. There's so many versions, Kia! let's endure the beeping a little bit longer. Beep, beep, beep. And check out the room in the back seats. Now I have put the seat for my 3-year-old in here just for a bit of context. You can see it fits in nicely and there's loads of legroom, dead easy. It's a really roomy cabin. I know when they brought the Sportage out for Europe, it was designed just to be a bit roomier than the previous one. You've got these coat hook things built into the back of the headrests there. You've also got what Hyundai, Genesis and Kia as part of the group. They're putting USB-Cs on the back of seats so you can charge iPads and things in the back. Your kids can rather, or your back seat passengers. There's a little foldy down the armrest thing with cup holders. So far, so standard. I'm going to hop in and show you what it's like in here because I think there's a bit of a difference, frankly. I'm fine in terms of headroom, knee room, view out. It's all fine. This is a little bit scratchy for what is now a 44 grand car. I like the shape of the door handles though. That is interesting. It's like the handle of a spade. I've got heated seats back here, which you operate from there. Quite small door bins. They're not felt lined, so stuff will rattle around. And I can only just about fit my massive clodhoppers under the seat, but I've got pretty big feet, so that's probably all right, isn't it? And I've got a little thing there. That was the thing I thought was a bit different from the other Sportages. It feels like the floor is ever so slightly higher. It's probably not. But anyway, I'm going to show you up front because there's loads of tech there. I like tech. I mostly like playing Simcopter. It's a really up-to-date game. Google it. We're going to start down here today with the seats because this is GT Line S. You get what Kia calls suede leather, which is really just black leather with some piping on it. And these are also 10-way adjustable seats, which are ventilated. You also get metal pedals in the GT Line S and GT Line as well. Now, the big displays, which haven't fully come on yet because I'm not doing anything, but it's going to beep now I've done that. You get a 12-inch Supervision display for the driver, and you also get a matching 12-inch one in the middle. So, yeah, it's like a big, curvy, audio-visual eyegasm. But if you don't get the top spec one, if you get an entry-level one, you only get a diddy little screen there with 2 very basic LED displays either side. It looks a bit like 2 Casio watches straddling a little bit of colour screen. Wouldn't really bother me, to be honest, and it might be worth saving the money. The main thing is you want the big central display. It's just super nice, super pretty, and not showing anything particularly interesting at the moment. There we go, look at all those neon graphics. You might be wondering why I've left my iPhone cable here. That is because you can only get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto if you plug in, which feels like a little bit of a miss. I do like the fact you do get a regular USB-A and a USB-C slot down there, and there's a wireless charging pad and a 12 volt. It's all super easy to use. Rotary gear knob for the 6-speed automatic gearbox, and that's your driver select where you can click it in. There's some terrain modes for snow, mud, and sand, because this is a 4-wheel drive. This is the button for switching between the different hybrid modes, so pure electric and sort yourself out mode. Parking cameras, heated seat, heated steering wheel, cooled seat. It's got it all, and this is the thing that I've seen some controversy on the internet about. If you have it set like that, you've got this little set of digital buttons for your shortcuts, and then you can hit that and you've got digital buttons for your climate controls, but you can't get any feedback from them, so you kind of have to look at them when you're using them, which is un petit peu dangereux, as they say in Korea. Just before we go for a drive, actually, I do want to show you the all-round camera, because I don't know if this will come across on video, but it's really, really freaking sharp, the image on this. It's a really nice display, and it's very helpful when you're trying to maneuver. Obviously, that is part of this being a top spec one. You get that all-round camera thing, but I like those. It's worth having. And one more thing in this video where I keep forgetting to film everything because there's so much to film. This is the screen that shows you your range on electricity and your range on dead dinosaurs. So there you go, 250 miles from about 3/4 of a tank of petrol and 18 miles from about half a charge. So add them up, not very far. Anyway, I want to see how this drives to see if that weight of that battery really makes a difference and ruins things. There's only one way to find out, and that is by driving it. So I'm going to stick the GoPros in and go for a drive. Driving the PHEV PHEV Sportage is the same as driving any other Sportage. Put your foot on the brake and hit the engine start-stop button, because I've got keyless everything. And it plays a little motivating tune at you, then ramps the fans up to max, so it gets picked up on your microphone. But otherwise it's into D, and away we go. Now this defaults to trying to use an EV mode as often as possible when you pull away. So you pull away in silence, like an electric car. And I have to say, Kia's done a really good job of integrating the 4-cylinder engine into this, because when it kicks in, it isn't demotivatingly noisy, it's just just there. It's a bit of extra noise, but it's not like rah, because it's a proper automatic gearbox, not a CVT, aka a moped gearbox. It doesn't hold on to revs and make an absolute racket when you're using it. But yeah, in terms of actual driving, this feels much like any other Sportage. That is to say, very easy to drive. It's just seamless, smooth, and also quite fast when you put your foot down in electric mode. It's a joyous thing. Now, over some broken surfaces and like little bumps in the road, it's a little bit more weighty feeling on its suspension than the non-PHEV one. You can't ignore the fact that battery does weigh an extra couple of 100 kilos, whatever it is. You do feel it, but you only really notice it if you're a nerd like me, or if you back-to-back tested it with a non-PHEV version. It never gets annoying. It never makes my moobs jiggle unpleasantly or pleasantly. It just drives. It's very well engineered. But anyway, that's all boring stuff. The visibility out all round is very good as well. That's extra boring stuff. Now, to continue the theme of boring stuff, I'm going to get to a dual carriageway and talk about refinement at 70 miles an hour. Is that boring? That might be a fetish. Right, we're about to head out into the wild plains of a Surrey dual carriageway, so we're going to go around here at 40. It doesn't roll too much when you go around a corner, it feels controlled, and I'm going to boot it. Petrol engine's kicked in, doing 60, doing 70, and I really like how far plug-in hybrids have come, because it used to be, like 3 or 4 years ago, that you put your foot down, you really knew when the petrol engine had kicked in, because it would be raucous and it would be on a CVT gearbox, which would hold the revs, and it would be deafening and horrible. I'm doing 70 miles an hour. The petrol engine helped get me there, but guess what? It's gone away, it's turned off. I'm doing 70 miles an hour in my Sportage plug-in hybrid with no tailpipe emissions. I'm just on electric power. I don't know how long I'll be able to do that. I've still got half a battery, but silent running at 70 miles an hour. Well, I say silent, there's a little bit of wind noise off the doors and a little bit of tyre noise, but it is better than average in here in terms of refinement. It's comfortable. Nearly all Sportages get radar cruise control as well, and it's dead simple to use using a single button on the steering wheel to set it, he says. And then you can adjust your distance to the car in front. And it wins an award because it's got a graphic that is really, really simple to work out. Some cars you're like, oh, is that the closest distance or the furthest distance from the car in front? Ugh. This is just very simple. The lane keeping can be a little bit annoying, but you just press and hold a button here and it goes away. But anyway, let's do less practical things. Let's talk about country road driving. Yeah. Right, I'm getting up to my twisty country road. This is a spot where I'd normally do a launch control start, but this is a family SUV, so I'm just going to accelerate up to the speed limit. Who does a launch in a family SUV? Your kids' Peppa Big books might fall out the back and you'd never see them again, oh no. But anyway, I didn't talk about MPG earlier. I've been driving this for about 30, 40 miles, and I've done nearly all of it on electric power, so it's saying I've got 164 MPG, which is obviously nonsense, but I haven't used much petrol, is the truth. The long-term MPG on this press car, which has been driven for, well, I've lost it now, fine. Over the past 120 miles, which was not all me, it's done 56 MPG, which is pretty good, like in mixed driving. But on a country road, this feels fine. It is not an exciting car to drive, but it grips probably better than you would think, and it doesn't lean too much in corners. A little bit, but nothing that's going to make you feel sick. It's not boaty. It feels like pretty much any other SUV, to be honest. And again, over bumps, you feel the weight of that battery pack, but it's neither here nor there, really. So yeah, making this a plug-in hybrid car hasn't knackered anything, to be honest. It's still perfectly livable, perfectly decent, which probably isn't the explosive conclusion that you were coming here for. But anyway, I'm in a really dark bit of forest, so I'm going to hand back to Tim for an outro. Unless the woodland trolls get me, or Totoro. Great film, great film. So, in conclusion, was I right to spend 44 grand on a Kia Sportage in this dream world where I didn't just borrow it? Yes and no, to be honest. It's got the limitations of all plug-in hybrids, so it feels a little bit heavy and it's got an overall reduced driving range, but it's an excellent gateway drug to full electric. So if you're not ready to go fully electric, this gives you that experience. You get 40 miles of that experience and you get used to plugging it in and all the rest of it. And this is one of the best ones I've driven, and it is still, underneath all that battery stuff, or above it, next to it. It is still a Sportage, it's still a new Sportage, so it is probably the best new SUV you can buy right now for family duties. It's really high tech, it looks like nothing else. It's got all the tech you really need. Usual whinge applies that the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is not wireless, but so what, you can plug in, it's not a massive hardship. I really, really like it. Not a lot to fault with it, it's just 44 grand or 38 if you don't get the GT Line S plug-in. Can you afford that? It's up to you. Anyway, thank you ever so much for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, please hit like. Also consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help me out producing these videos. And there is more of this nonsense coming very soon. Go down to the comments, leave me a little note in Korean. Whatever you fancy. Something nice, please. Not too nice. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.